Hi, I'm Tom Manty, and this is my wife Denise, and this is my story. I was born in a loving Christian home, and for about 16 years I never questioned my religion. After about age 16, I had a friend that introduced me to a different church, very different than what I was used to. But that church was, how do you say it, really good at recruiting. They were good at recruiting, and they slowly pulled you in. Both the churches I belonged to at that point, up until that point, were baptism was part of being a member in that church. It was a requirement. It was a saving ordinance. When you got baptized, you were part of the club. And that in particular, you're a member, you're part of it because you got baptized. And that, at first it felt good, and it felt to be part of the club, and it was something different than I originally grew up with. After the 23 years, I had some questions about the church, and I didn't know where to go. I just knew that it wasn't a church for me. A good friend of mine, who's a member of this church, Bill Winkler, was a member of a running group in Roanoke. And Bill had the courage to say to me, "Hey Tom, why don't you come check out my church?" He didn't know where I was going to church. He didn't know if I was going to church. He just said, "Hey, I'm going to Bedrock. Come check out my church." Bill Winkler planted a seed. I didn't go to the church at that point, but it was that seed had been planted. I met Denise, we got married, and after we got married, we were looking for, prior to getting married, we were looking for a church. And I had said, "Hey, Bill Winkler invited me once to come to his church. Why don't we go check it out?" It was very welcoming. Wasn't overly welcoming. If you can understand what I mean by overly welcoming. They weren't swarming upon you. They asked you to fill out every week. I thought it was really unique that they asked to fill out a card. They said, "We're not going to hound you. We're not going to visit your front door, but we want to know who you are." But it was up to me and actually us as to whether we're going to continue to go. There was no pressure, and I liked that. And I can't tell you who was. I'm sorry, I can't tell you who was speaking of the church up in the front. But they said, "If you want to come up, if you haven't accepted Christ as your Savior." And although I felt at that point I had, because I'd been a member of two different Christian churches, I was a member in my heart. I was a member of two clubs. In order to be members of those churches, you had to be baptized. So in my heart, I was a member of two clubs. At that day, I went up and I looked at my friend Joe and I says, "I get it. I accepted Christ as my Savior at that point." I didn't know whether I needed to be baptized a third time. I figured, well, I was baptized once as an infant and again as an 18-year-old. Why do I need to get baptized again? So I met with Joe, and he said, "You don't really need to. Baptism is an outward expression of an inward commitment." And for the longest time, I said, "Okay, I'm not going to get baptized." In late November, early December, I contracted COVID, and spent 10 days in a hospital. I'm sure I freaked out my wife. There was a point in the hospital that I knew that and at that point I was saying, if I get out of here, I'm going to get baptized. I struggled. I couldn't see anybody. And the day I came home from the hospital, I lost my mom. 35 days later, I was at work and I got a call. And they said, if you want to see your dad, you need to come now. Sometimes it's just so hard. But I did know at that point that I was going to get baptized, because I made the commitment in the hospital that when I got out, and if I got out, I was going to be baptized. So I contacted Joe. I don't want to know what day it was. It was Sunday. It was Sunday. But Josh and myself were baptized on that day.
Raised to walk in newness of life.
I still struggle at times with losing my parents. My dad would always say to me, Tom, you need to get back to church. And Dad didn't care what church it was. Dad wanted you back in church. And now Dad always knew I would probably be in a Christian church. And I am. And I'm proud to be a member of Bedrock.